Thank you very much for coming. It's nice to see you. You're very welcome. My name is Roy Gray, and I've been asked to chair this meeting. I am renting a chalet in the Felixstowe front. So, first of all, before we start, I've got a couple of quick 3 announcements I have to make. Please note if there's any emergencies, you've got the fire exits on your left and the main door there. So please make sure that you are aware of where they are. The second thing I want to say is that all these halls, of course, this hall and the one we had before, common, all cost money. Julie paid for the last one, and of course we're going to pay for this one. So what we've done, hopefully you'll join us, put a box on the table. We'd ask if you'd like to put a donation in to cover the cost of the Harley's halls. So thank you very much for doing that in advance. Lastly, I'd like to introduce you to the people on my left and right. Simon, Julie, Barbara and Trevor, and we were asked to be here to represent you. Unfortunately, no representative of Suffolk Coastal District Council will be here today. I know, I'm sorry, I appreciate that, and we will explain the reasons why. So following the last meeting, very briefly, Julie and Barbara in particular pursued Mr. Herring, the leader of the Suffolk Coastal, to try and get answers to the questions that you and we had raised at that meeting. From that, Mr. Herring invited Julie and Barbara, plus other representatives, to meet them at Woodbridge. Now, Julie and Barbara then suggested or asked and cajoled and begged Simon, Trevor, myself, plus Jo Woodward, who unfortunately can't be here today because she's got a business meeting, to attend with them. And we all went to Woodbridge last Friday. We went to Woodbridge, obviously, with the questions, asking for what's going to happen and what they can do about the beach huts and chalets. We were met by Mr. Herring and Mr. Holcroft. He does exist. That's a good person. We thought it was a cardboard cutout, but it wasn't really him. He's a cabinet member, you may know, responsible for beach huts, chalets and leisure. Spark included, but that's not the matter. And Ms. Tamara Javadi, who's the head of finance, and Miss Catherine Thornber, who we believe is Mr. Holcroft's PA. Now the meeting opened with Mr. Herring obviously giving various answers to some of the questions we raised. And basically, before I go any further, because we're going to have more later on, into the detail, one thing I can tell you immediately, which I know you won't like, but they have said they will not, under any circumstances, prepared to reduce the proposed increases. They are not prepared. Now what I propose to do now is to go through the questions we raised with them, one by one, and if you have any questions, which I'm sure you will, we'll try to answer them. Please, I would ask you, do not talk or shout at the same time, make one question each if you can. My colleagues left and right will answer the questions if it's possible. The first question we raised, obviously, was how do you justify the dramatic increase of between 12% and 20% imposed upon beach hut owners and the chalet owners this year? Since between 2007 and 2012, beach hut licence fees have gone up 50% already, plus the chalets, of course, have gone up respectively. Now what I aim to do here is to pass you on to Simon and Trevor, who may give you some more answers as to what they, or give you the reasons for their answers. Simon, could you pass us on?
When we met with them, all, as you'd expect, it was pretty slippery, and the fact that every question was answered with a lot of blah, blah, blah. For 2 hours we had, the Director of Finance was there, on £60,000 a year for 2 hours, and she didn't give one statistic. She couldn't produce any figures at all. So the whole meeting was pretty much guessing. Sorry about that. So the whole meeting was pulling figures out of the air. If there were very few figures banded around by them at the time. I think that's actually how they do business, is plucking figures out of the air. Sorry. Is that better? So it looks to us that they are not going to. They're not going to go back on the decision. They probably can't at this moment. So for this year, these charges are going to stand. Is it? Anything else you want?
Yeah, I'll just say that the phrases they kept bandying about were market value and comparison with other areas. And they would not give us a definition of what market values was or what areas they compared us with. We've been badgering them ever since. Julie has eventually got the Director of Finance to send us some figures, and they have compared us with quite a lot around the country, which they think we're cheaper than the others. They also make a lot of other assumptions. They assume that most people rent out their beach hut for profit. Anyone here rent theirs out for profit? There you go. Well, on the figures that they have sent us, sublet charges from beach hut, they've been to a website called beachhutrent.com where people can advertise their beach huts for rent. And they've put a set of figures in here. £50 a week would raise you £1,800. £100 a week will raise you £3,600. So I can only assume you're all raking that money in and declaring it to the tax man. So that's the figures that they've given us as to how they went about.
No evidence.
Oh, no evidence at all. No. They say there's a waiting list for chalets. Yes, there is. We know there's a waiting list for chalets of over 200 people. I suspect that if those 200 people knew they had to pay £1,700, the waiting list would get considerably shorter. They don't know if there's a waiting list for beach huts because they have no control over who owns beach huts. Yes, ma'am.
Was Mrs. Alec at any time present? Did she produce any figures that we requested? It sounds like they didn't. And also, regarding the waiting list, she should have the waiting list, so Alec really has got a lot of information.
No, Jane Alec wasn't there.
Thank you.
No. They've also given us a breakdown of how much they get from rents, and the income projected for next financial year is £456,000 from rents for beach huts and chalets.
£500,000.
We've also asked them to give us their expenditure on beach huts and chalets. Somehow or other, they've come up with a figure of £113,000. It is. It's laughable. And that's things like direct admin costs, well, there's a bit of postage. Accounts management, well, whatever. Provision for bad debt. They could have a lot more of that. Commission services of £25,000, don't know what they are. And utilities based on estimated use. But they've come up with £113,000. But even if that is a fact, they make a profit of £342,500 on beach huts every year. And just, we'll come up with the association later, but when we spoke to them about would they be prepared to assist us in forming an association, they said that yes, we'd be very positive. And Joanne said, well, would you be kind enough to send out a mail shot on our behalf if we provide you with all the letters and things? And one of the officers there took a sharp intake of breath and said, that could cost £300. So that's what we're up to. So
just one question. That profit is based on the old rents, is it? Not the new one?
No, that's the projected profit for next year.
Okay, thank you.
They also gave us last year's, which was £102,000. They made £102,000. No, so I beg your pardon, no, that was expenditure. They made 300 last year. They made 300,000 last year, and they expect to make £342,000 this year, profit. We went into the costs of what costs are there, and as I say, until we got those figures, they couldn't give us any. and we spoke about the chalets, the maintenance costs, and they accept they haven't done anything on maintenance costs for the chalets for 6 years at all. And surprisingly, they said, well, of course they are coming to the end of their life. We said, yeah, that is surprising if you're not maintaining them. So those are the sort of figures that they gave us in response to our questions.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. So that gives you some idea of sort of where we were with our friends. Just going back to what Trevor was talking about beach huts. One of the things they tried to compare was chalets, which I obviously took a slight interest in. And they started quoting about Eastbourne. So a figure of £2,485 a year. A lot of money. So yesterday, very late last night, I went into their website. And you find out that they do charge that. But this is what they get. It's inclusive of, it's brick built, includes all electricity, all gas, sink with running water, all council repairs, parking space, shower and toilets. Now that's not bad, is it? I mean, you can think about paying that, but compared with what we get. Anyway, that's what they said. Also, Chroma, they were quoting, and they kept quoting it's £110 a week. In fact, it is, but it's only for a period of 5 weeks in the peak months, in the peak weeks of the summer holidays. The rest of the time, it drops down to £60 a week. So, these figures, which they plucked out of the sky, obviously, somebody somewhere sat there and thought these are good figures, we're good money. So anyway, that gives you an idea where we started. Please, sorry, I'll pass you back to Trevor.
Sorry, there's one thing I also like to mention, that the papers that went into the Cabinet meeting in January, which recommended a rise of 10%, they came out of the meeting with 12%. We haven't yet been able to find out how they justified raising the recommended 10% up to 12%. Another one plucked out of the air, I think. They just can't answer it.
Sorry, yes.
It's
Lady
just,
in the back, I've seen you, so yes.
just as a matter of interest,
Yep.
we were agreed here, if everybody on the bottom of the forms could put down how much we are paying ourselves per rent or on the huts or your chalets, so these guys here can just do a tot-up of what these people in this room alone pay out, and that will just be an idea about just a bite of what is being put into
So
this.
any information you could put on there would be useful. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, did they say with this big increase that they would hold that for another year, or so there's no more increases?
Well, you're jumping ahead of the schedule, but I'll tell you the answer to that. You're quite right to ask it. What they said was, we asked them, the very last question we asked them, I'll read it. The very last question was, given the dramatic increase in this year's fees, we would like at least to propose a freeze on any increase to the 2014-2015 beach hut and chalet fees.
No.
Can you agree to this now?
No.
You can't. The answer was, we are very sympathetic. I think that was his words, or something. I think it was. However, they will look at it, and they did say they would hope, and please stress the word hope, that they would be looking at, there would be no increase above inflation. Which this year is running at 2.7, but Mr. Hearing did say that he would look at that. Now, Mr. Holcroft, of course, was shaking his head and wasn't too sure. But the leader of the council did say, I think I'm right in saying this, didn't I? He did say he would do all in his power to try and ensure it was not increased above inflation next year. But he could not promise.
Thank you.
All right, is there any more questions on that? Anyway, we'll go to the next one. Sorry, I do apologise.
Maybe if you see them again, you could say at our place there's at least 10 beach huts for sale. One of them's been for sale for 3 years. There's no waiting at all.
Whereabouts are you?
Brackenbury.
Okay. We'll certainly bear that in mind, and we did say, I think Trevor did, and certainly Joanne did, that there were beach huts for sale around where they were, and that they've been on sale for quite a period of time. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
We've got one next door to us, and that's been for sale for 2 years.
2 years. So whereabouts are you, ma'am?
Brackenbury.
Brackenbury. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing that we did make clear to them that there were, but they, as I said. What we did, second question, if I may, carry on, what we did say, why were the beach hut owners and chalet tenants not approached or consulted by the local councillors voting on this dramatic rise in fees.